This episode is brought to you by Blizzard. Play Diablo 4 free during the open beta weekend. Only you can stand in the way of the forces of hell. Play free March 24th to 26th and pre-purchase for early access. Journey through the entire first act. Battle up to level 25 as all 5 classes. Adventure with your friends in 4-player co-op. Descend into hell early during the open beta. Pre-purchase Diablo 4 now.
As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Less than a day after the Bengals made the big splash with Orlando Brown, they continue bulking up in the trenches as they are making Joe Burrow's protection their main priority, per usual, this offseason. Welcome into another free agency edition of the Strictly Stripes podcast. Muhammad Ahmad, Mike Nizick, and Andrew Gills here with you as we break down another signing from the Bengals, an external signing, we should say, the second one they've made this week, and that is Cody Ford, who played 1 year with the Arizona Cardinals last year as a guard, backing up Kyler Murray. He signs with the Bengals on a 1-year deal. Jeremy Fowler first broke the news not long before the team officially announced it on their end. He's listed as a tackle on the Bengals website, but he mostly played guard for Arizona. He did play a little bit of tackle in Buffalo, where he was for 3 years before that, along with obviously playing guard, but they have him listed as a tackle. So just kind of looking at it, guys, so you have Orlando Brown, and it's guaranteed that he's going to be at left tackle because Albert Beer reported that the plan for the Bengals is putting Brown at left tackle, putting Jonah Williams at right tackle, and quote-unquote a decision will be made down the line on Lyle Collins. So with the signing of Cody Ford, where do you think that kind of sets things up? And now what does that mean, not just for Cody Ford, but what does that mean maybe for Lyle Collins at this point?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like I said last night. I think they're kind of going to take a wait-and-see approach. I think, that was also one of the reports today that, they'll make a decision on Lyle Collins down the line. If you can kind of get him to a point where you feel okay about him, he's obviously a pretty good depth lineman to have. I wouldn't imagine that, I think it's pretty safe to say that, his contract is not going to be fulfilled in Cincinnati, his 3-year contract right now. I think, either this year or next year, he's going to be looking for a new team, just with kind of the way that things have shaken out. But, with the Cody Ford addition, that to me kind of just that just strikes of, you're going to look at a guy who, like you said, has played guard and tackle, but that's a depth signing. That's a thing where, you're going to bring in a guy where, okay, if he has to play tackle, that's fine. If he has to play guard, that's fine. Think of it a little bit like, what they did with Hakeem Adeniji. So, I think that, they're just kind of building options with Ford and, with Lyle Collins. We'll see. I think if you can fit it under the cap, then I think you absolutely hang on to him.
Well, and yeah, Cody Ford, I think it's just a replacement for Max Sharping, probably at a better salary. Yeah. Sharping made $2.54 million last year. I would hope that Cody Ford got less just based on his track record, which is fairly spotty over 4 years. I know he's played every position, left guard, right tackle. There's versatility, but also, he's not really played any of them particularly well for a long period of time. I was looking, he gave up, according to Pro Football Focus, 12 pressures in a game in 2021.
Yep.
And had a pass blocking grade of 3.1, which I thought was fun. 3.1. What got him a 3.1? Was just because he signed his name.
Shouldn't being out there just get you like a 10? Just being there?
It was so funny to me. But I think it's a sign of high draft picks usually get multiple chances. So this will be his third team. So you think maybe if you can get him in your system with your guy, your coach, you can get more out of him. But certainly not a guy that I think you expect anything more than just being an option if somebody gets hurt, just based on his track record playing wise. You like the versatility, but he's going to need to be more consistent if he has any sort of prolonged role to see the field. But I just think it's a replacement for Sharping at a better price, essentially. And I don't know that it impacts Collins at all. I think it's sort of separate, to be honest.
So, yeah, you're right about Sharping. I didn't think they were going to bring him back, and so I think what we just saw only confirms that. But to go back to the Collins point, Andrew just said a second ago of like, if you can make the cap space work, hold on to Lyle. But my question is, why hold on to him? And do you think even if they can make it work, why not save the money in that case? Like kind of the counter response, like why keep him? And then maybe why is it worth saving the cap space in your opinion, Andrew?
Well, it depends. Like, are you going to use that exact money to go get a safety who's going to start for you? Then yeah, you use that money to go get a safety. But if you feel if you add a safety, if you add a starting safety and you add a backup tight end or a guy who's going to come in and be kind of in a rotation for you, starting tight end, and then you kind of look around and say, well, we can fit the rookies in, we can fit all of this stuff in. I think we'll be okay. Then look what happened with their offensive line last year. I mean, they were not, great to start the year. They did improve. I think they kind of became average as the end of the year happened. You saw them start to kind of get more reps together and start to play well together. And then in consecutive weeks, Leo Collins goes down, Alex Kappa goes down, then you lose Jonah Williams. Like you watch that offensive line kind of deteriorate slowly over time. And all of a sudden, like if you think, the jury is obviously very much still out on Cody Ford, but like if you think that Leo Collins is an upgrade over Hakeem Adeniji or Jackson Carman, which I think he pretty clearly is, why not? Like if you can have that quality of depth on your offensive line, then I'd take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. If you were to get a safety, we actually want to talk about that in a second because that's like the big position of need now that the Bengals pretty much took care of the offensive line. But, let's say you do keep him and, whether you get a new safety or not, it doesn't have anything to do with Collins and, that money. Like, do you make him the Hakeem Adeniji where you make him the swing tackle and then Hakeem Adeniji is just a straight backup at that point to Jonah Williams, who, like we said, is probably going to move to right tackle. Like, where do you think he fits if they hold on to him and they don't make him a post-June 1st cut? Like, what do you do with him at that point?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Oh, you're fine. I was saying, like, if you hold on to Lyle Collins, you think you can make it work and you can still get a safety, do whatever beyond that. What do you do with him? Because, like, it sounds like Jonah Williams is going to start at right tackle. Do you make him the swing tackle? So basically like what Hakeem Adeniji was last year. Where does he fit in all of this?
Yeah, he's your backup tackle. I think that's, you wait till he gets healthy, and I think it might take some time for him to be like in prime physical condition. So now he gets that time, and he's your, like a premium backup. It's not probably what he wants, but at the same time, I think it's a chance to win a Super Bowl, and you're really, I think, ensuring that, if you have an injury at tackle, you have, one of the probably better backups across the league in terms of a guy with experience, guy that can play at a high level. We kind of criticized some of how he played last year, but as a backup, as a 6 offensive lineman, you can't do much better than that, I don't think.
So go, or do you want to say something, Andrew? I was going to read the depth chart real quick.
No, yeah, Mike pretty much echoed exactly what I was going to say. If you can build quality depth on your offensive line, we talked about this for a while after the combine. What Duke Tobin said, there's more teams that want offensive linemen than there are offensive linemen available. So if you have the ability to build up that depth on your offensive line, you're not going to go 17 of 17 with 5-year starters.
So looking at right tackle with the new deals and everything, so you have Jonah Williams as your starter, Lyle Collins behind him, you have Hakeem Adeniji as the 3rd string, and then Deontay Smith as your 4th string right tackle. And then on the left side, it's Orlando Brown, Jackson Carman, and Adeniji. But you also have Carman as a backup left guard, which he was most of his rookie year and part of last year until all those injuries put him at left tackle. Where would you want to see Jackson Carman? Because that's kind of an interesting question is, he's backed up at guard, but he saw action at left tackle. Is he just your backup left tackle, or do you think he just, he backs up at guard. Like, where would you want to put him just based on what you've seen from him in the last 2 years as a backup?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of depends on what you're going to do in the draft. So you've obviously got, what you're going to do, frankly, with La'el Collins, because you can look at your offensive line and, if you want to carry 10 offensive linemen, you've got your starting 5. Let's say you keep Collins. You've got Cody Ford. There's 6. You're probably not going to keep – like Cody Ford is kind of that tackle guard kind of mix. If you're going to keep La'el Collins and Cody Ford, I'm not sure if you're going to put another tackle on that list. I think you're going to go interior. You need somebody who has reps at center. You think of like a Trey Hill. So like, frankly, you kind of look at it, and depending on how the draft shakes out, I think it's pretty clear that you have your starting 5. Cody Ford will be around. Let's say La'el Collins is going to be around. If you draft some guys, it's going to be a roster fight with Jackson Carman and Hakeem Adeniji and some of the other guys that are kind of down on that list. Trey Hill. This isn't going to be, kind of like last year where, you pretty much felt like, the linemen are kind of set. There's going to be a battle for left guard, and that's about it. Like, there's going to be some real serious competition on your depth. And frankly, if you're releasing guys, like if you have to cut Hakeem Adeniji, or if you have to cut Jackson Carman
or Deontay Smith,
you have guys. Sure, well, right, but like if you have to cut guys that played for you or were kind of playing in that AFC Championship game, is what I was trying to get to. Like, that's a pretty good place to be if you've improved that much, not just in your starting quality, but in your depth as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I like what you just said there about if you have to cut guys who, played in the AFC Championship, played in the Super Bowl. Because, Adeniji played both. Played right guard in the Super Bowl, played right tackle in last year's title game. And if you have to let him go, or Deontay Smith, or I don't think they would cut him, but maybe Jackson Carman. It's a business decision, but like you said, that means you've improved pretty well. Like, that means you're really cashed out with Orlando Brown. You got great talent with Jonah Williams and Ted Karras and Alex Kappa, like the last 2 guys there who proved themselves last year. Cordell Vosen, who I think is going to maybe not have a breakout year, but he'll definitely improve on like his rookie year. And so I think that's a really good place to be if you're the Bengals. But, you mentioned the draft, and that's kind of what I want to get to next is, we were going to talk about this yesterday on our initial podcast, but the Orlando Brown news changed that. But, of course, Hayden Hurst is out. He is in Carolina. He's with Von Bell as they both go back to the NFC South. So you don't have any tight ends in their contract except for Devin Asiasi and your practice squad reserves. And I know we talked about this a little bit, but I want to revisit it now that things are a little bit different with the signings. That number 28 overall pick, now that your offensive line is more solidified at this point, do the Bengals just ditch the whole Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright project idea and just lean towards a tight end? Or do you even veer away from that and, like, say you go for an edge rusher or go for a corner? Like, what is that number 28 overall pick looking like after those big signings, in the last 24 hours?
Well, I don't think it's changed. I think we did talk about this on the podcast that ended up getting posted, that I think you have the flexibility now. Like, if Antoine Harris is like your best player available, like, you take him. Because you still then could, part ways with Jonah Williams and go in a different direction, after next season. But you have other needs, and it just probably depends on what your board says. If a mayor slips down to you, you take him. Or, if you have a tight end that's higher, if like a Darnell Washington's a guy you really want, you could take him. But I think they have the flexibility now. I certainly don't think they will feel pressure to take a tackle in the first round. I think they'll be able to sit back and say, what do we want to do here? Because, they've really addressed that need for next season. And they now, they do still have some holes on the roster that they need to fill in the draft.
So you said that you could see them parting ways with Jonah Williams. You think that's an actual possibility if they were to go the Anton Harrison route?
Well, I mean, not sign him to an extension because I mean he'll be a free agent after this year. So yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like cut him before this year. I was like,
Oh no,
I don't know. That's
no. Just the idea that you still need a future tackle to potentially take Jonah Williams' place because you haven't signed him to an extension, and I'd be frankly very surprised if he did land an extension before next season.
okay. I see. I thought you meant like, oh, draft a tackle and then part ways, as in like don't keep him in 2023. And I was like, well, that's a $12.5 million cap hit or dead cap that you're gonna have to pay. So at that point, you might as well just keep him. But no, I see what you mean. I appreciate the clarification. I figured that's what you meant, but just to make sure. I mean, yeah, it really, and this is kind of what I said yesterday on the podcast that wasn't a podcast, is that like, yeah, if he slips down, you're good. Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid is there. Of course, if it's Mayer, you go over Kincaid. But if either of them are there, you go one of those guys. But even then, like, I think if you want to go for an edge rusher, because we know Trey Hendrickson's not getting any younger, you can do that. If you want to go for a running back and have him behind Joe Mixon, assuming Mixon is still around, which we'll talk about, hey, shoot your shot. Like, and I think the biggest thing with that is, beyond all the wins that they have with the comfort on the offensive line, you have comfort with your number 20 overall pick. We've talked about how flexible it is. Well, these signings just proved how much more flexible that pick is. So I think that's a triple win among many other wins, for the Bengals on these free agent signings. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about the future of Joe Mixon, an update on where things stand with him and his case from last week, and much, much more on some other free agent signings when we return right here on the Strictly Stripes podcast. All right, thanks for staying with us on the Strictly Stripes podcast. So we briefly mentioned this last week. It was a week ago from today, or a little bit before that, that there was a shooting that took place outside of Joe Mixon's home in Cincinnati. A few days later, that being today, we're taping this on a Thursday, Hamilton County prosecutor spoke, said that Mixon would be cleared. He did not fire any shots or threaten anybody, according to the prosecutor. But his sister Shalonda and her boyfriend were both indicted for their role because, according to the prosecutor, she is charged with obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence, and her boyfriend is charged with felonious assault. So he is cleared. Different story for them. But guys, now that essentially Mixon's name is cleared from this case, and again, this is separate from the menacing charge from the month before that, does that affect his standing at all? Like, does it make his job more safe, or do you think that's separate from, where the Bengals want to go in terms of just efficiency and what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly separate. If the team was going to move on from Joe Mixon, I think they would have done it already. We've talked about kind of the cap implications of cutting him. You have $5.5 million of dead money, but you save 7.2 against the cap if you let him go. Obviously, those numbers kind of get more favorable after this season because he has this year and 2024 under contract. But again, you kind of just lay everything out with Mixon. Like, if you were going to want a little bit of extra money, to maybe make a potential deal for Orlando Brown look more enticing, or bring in a Jamal Williams or something like that. Like, you would have wanted to move on from Mixon already. So I think it's pretty clear Mixon's going to be around. I think, to me, you've got Trevion Williams and you've got Chris Evans. They brought back Trent Taylor today. So to me, that just kind of says you've got your returners set. You're going to let Williams and Evans kind of battle it out for that kick returning spot and that third down kind of change of pace, third running back slot that really didn't get used a lot. And then you're going to draft a person in somewhere in the middle rounds because I can't imagine Bijan Robinson's there at 28. So if you end the draft with like a Zach Charbonnet, I think that's kind of where they want to be, where you get some youth in there and you get some kind of controllable assets. Because right now, Joe Mixon, his contract is not exactly team friendly. So I can't imagine them doing anything in free agency to bring in somebody else. So I think Mixon will be here for 2023. I think, every day that goes by is making that more and more clear.
Yeah. And, I think fans would have questions, certainly. Why is he, I get he's maybe scared for his safety, but walking around a gun, neighborhood with a gun are not good optics. I know that they said in the press conference that he did make a call to the Bengals security team, but obviously right. I think the Bengals should do some, answer some questions about this and talk about it publicly, why they were okay with everything that transpired. I don't know if they'll be that transparent. They haven't said anything yet about either incident. So they're going to have to make peace with that. And on top of it, you're at the point where he's going to be trending in the wrong direction in terms of his production. I think, he seemed a little step slower at times. Didn't have very many explosive runs last year, and just, is got a lot of wear and tear. Running backs don't really get better after 26, 27, so the running back situation, I think, can be upgraded, but I just think that they're going to go in a different route. Obviously, top free agents are off the board. I think it's the draft, but in that second tier of players, because Robinson's sort of in a category of his own. I do think it would be interesting if they trade up to get him. I think he'd be pretty good in the Bengals uniform with this offense, but I don't think that's what the Bengals tend to do.
Yeah, I'm excited when we do our mock drafts, which once we get through free agency, I'm going to have some next week and, of course, every week until the draft like you guys are. And I want to definitely see where the running backs play into that now that things are kind of settled. But with Mixon, obviously it's an unfortunate situation because, like you said, he was receiving documented death threats. But at the same time, the Bengals will definitely, I'm sure, have to be asked some questions about kind of the way things went, like you said there, Mike. But kind of looking at the rest of free agency, I mentioned that, safety is the big position that the Bengals will be looking at now that they address the tackle spot. And interestingly, per reports from Jeremy Fowler and Ian Rappaport, the Bengals have hosted not one but two former Rams safeties who are free agents. First, it was Nick Scott Thursday morning, and I think tonight or tomorrow it's going to be Taylor Rapp. And Taylor Rapp is a name I've mentioned a couple times on this podcast. So what do you guys think? Do you think one of those two becomes a Bengal? What do you think of either of them? Do you think this is a sign that the Bengals will be like, all right, you both play for the same team, we'll take one of you? Or who knows? You take both of them and you bring them together the same team, kind of like you did with Trey Hendrickson and Von Bell, but in all sarcasm. Where do you think that's going to head for the Bengals right now?
No, I think we've kind of mentioned this on the podcast that, with Dax Hill, they kind of like where he's at, but they've kind of touted his versatility and kind of what position he could play, and kind of how their safety positions are, really compatible. You don't really need a specific body type or prototype for one. I think they're probably after a certain type of player. I think that's fair to say, but again, you need one of them. You need a safety. You need a safety before you get into the draft. And then, if you get a safety before you go into the draft, really, there's not many other positions on this roster that you're kind of seeing as a glaring hole besides tight end. So I think if you bring in one of them, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, I think they're going to sign a veteran safety. I'm not sure who it is. I mean, they're doing their due diligence. I think Lou Anarumo said as much, that this is what they were going to do. They were going to kind of be patient about it and try to find the best fit. Like Andrew said, we're not really sure what that will be, what they're looking for, because they've been kind of playing those cards close to their chest in terms of, if they're looking for more of a box safety or for a free safety, and they kind of feel comfortable playing Dax in either spot. So I think it's just a matter of time, but it could last. These could not be the first and last visits they host here. I think this is more of what we were talking about the other day, where they're sort of maybe bargain hunting a bit to try to get the right cap fit as well, because they, obviously now face some real limitations with those extensions and offering, a bunch of money to Orlando Brown to land him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of, if there's anything that sucks about that is, you pay him all that money. Now you probably have to be a little more conservative with where your cap space goes for a future safety or safeties in this case. So we'll definitely kind of keep our eyes on that and our tabs on that for the next couple of days as free agency progresses. But, guys, I got to wrap up with really, I think, the most important thing of the day because, first of all, it's March, and March Madness officially kicked off on this Thursday. First of all, did you guys even make any brackets? Like, do you have any brackets in the works right now, or do you guys not do March Madness brackets?
Andrew?
Yeah, I was gonna say I was waiting for you because I do. I fill out, I'm in a couple different ones with my friends. I fill out like one very serious one where I actually kind of like do my 2 seconds of research. So I do that, and then, great. I'll do that. But I have kind of a rule for myself. Once March Madness starts, I don't look at them, because then I can't enjoy. I forget how far I had Arizona going, and Arizona just lost as a 2 seed to 15 seeded Princeton. So like I try to enjoy March Madness as much as I can, because again, anybody that tells you they know what they're doing with March Madness, they're selling you a basket full of fake goods. Like, it is pretty clearly just a crapshoot. And I don't know what games are going on right now, but I mean, Duke Oral Roberts, I think, is one. How many people in the world know
Arizona? What's it called? Auburn, Iowa's playing right now.
Sure, yeah. Nobody knows anything about these teams, so I just try to have as much fun with it as I can, and I fill out my bracket, and I kind of check after the first weekend or the second weekend and see how I'm doing. And but yeah, like during the games, I'm not sitting there going, "Oh my God, I had this team in my bracket," because again, it's just a crapshoot.
I filled out one to do with the kids because they like to fill it out and just look who wins and losses. But none of us have any idea. I have not watched a single minute of college basketball, and I don't plan to. So,
well, being from Kentucky, I was indoctrinated into being a college basketball aficionado. So, for the sake of my dual loyalties, I made 2 brackets. One having Kentucky as a national champion because, again, I'm indoctrinated. I'm brainwashed. That's fine. I'm not going to take it personal. I did make another one, though, with a lot of interesting predictions. And I actually have Baylor and Texas, 2 Lone Star State teams playing for the national title. And I have Baylor winning it all because I have faith in their coach and the fact that they won a title 2 years ago. What's his name again? Is it Drew Scott? Scott Drew? I'm probably getting the names mixed up. But
dude, you're asking the wrong people. I have no earthly idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, I know who he is. I know the face. But yeah, I mean, they were a 1 seed last year. I think they'll get the redemption this year. But I did predict the Furman upset. Did you predict that, Andrew? The upset over Virginia?
Did you predict it, or did you flip a coin and say...
No, I predicted it. I genuinely actually thought that one through because Virginia was...
So how much money did you win?
I didn't win any money. This is just for well, I mean, I could win money. I don't know. It depends. I'm in a pool with one of my friends right now, and it's like $5 a person. So we'll see how far I get.
So I mean, See, if you're betting big money, then it's impressive. But if you're just doing a bracket and it's for nothing,
Well, yeah. So that's what I'm.
Well, I don't gamble. Yeah, I'm not going to wager on that. I don't gamble.
Right, but that's what I mean, though.
So it's not an impressive pick. If you bet your house on Furman. I would absolutely give you a congrats and kudos, but you bet nothing.
Really?
Won nothing. So, okay, good job.
Who bets their house on a game?
So here's what that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Sick people. Go ahead, Andrew.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. First off, Virginia, noted chokers in March Madness. So that's not exactly they're the only. 5 years ago today, they lost, as we record this, they lost to UMBC.
That's true.
They lost to Ohio as a 4 seed.
That's your alma mater.
Yeah, they lost to Ohio as a 4 seed a few years ago, the last time they were in the tournament. They're noted. They do this a lot. And then also, Mohammed, let's do a little trivia question. What do you know about Furman? Where is Furman?
It is in Greenville, South Carolina.
Name me one player in their starting 5.
I hate you, Andrew.
See,
You're officially
exactly.
kicked off this podcast.
You don't know anything about Furman.
I just looked at their stats, though. I looked at their stats and stuff.
Yeah, you mean the points per game? You mean the points per game and the points per game that they give up? The things that ESPN gives you as you look at the little thing. Yeah,
well, actually, it was CBS Sports, but yeah.
Yeah, nobody predicts this crap. You just hey, everybody does the same thing with their bracket. You fill it out, and then you're like, hey, in my Sweet 16, I have all number 1, 2s, and 3 seeds. Maybe I should flip this, and then you're just like, all right, I'll pick this and this and that. Everybody does the same shit.
Whoa,
man, you just unleashed on me, Andrew. Dang, where did this come from? Like,
I hate it, dude. It's my biggest pet peeve in the world.
Okay,
the fans that are sitting there, like, oh yeah, the people who like I see it every year on Twitter where everybody's just like, I don't know, man. I think Oral Roberts is really going to give Duke a run. Really? Do you know anything about Oral Roberts basketball, or did you hear
But again,
Jay Billis say?
Back to my original better point is that I would still tolerate the discussion if you bet $100,000 on it and you still didn't know anything about him. It's still a ballsy move and impressive. Like if you make a claim and you back it up with a significant portion of cash. Otherwise, it's just noise.
Man. Okay, that was something. I didn't expect all of that, but that was very entertaining. That's why we do this podcast, because I like to be entertained, as do the listeners. But stay with us, because tomorrow we're going to see what happens with free agency, kind of put a bow on this week, give our grades on how things went for the Bengals up to this point and throughout the rest of the week, and much, much more on maybe predicting what the next couple of weeks will look like, setting up mock drafts, as we mentioned earlier, and much more. But for myself, Mike and Andrew, I'm Muhammad Ahmad. Go crazy and enjoy some March Madness.